Hi, guys. Well, from beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up today, Dan, there's a new atheist on the block.
Oh, there always is. We are gaining ground every which way you look.
But Christian boy band member, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, we got high-profile Christian who has lost his faith.
yeah.
And
Is it
we're
was
gonna
the
talk
boy
about-
band? What was it?
It's a band. I've never even heard of it, but anytime you get a high-profile Christian coming over to the dark side,
Yeah.
I start to wonder, is this going to be good for us? And that's
now
the
that's
question we're
interesting.
asking.
Because why wouldn't it be good for us?
Oh, there are reasons,
That
Frank.
is the
There are
question.
reasons.
Okay. All right. Well, that's very exciting.
yeah. So stick around for that. But let's do some stories first.
Okie dokie, Dan. Boy, where do I start? Oh, no. I'll start with this one. Moldova.
Yeah, Moldova, sure.
Moldova, right? It's a
Yeah.
Moldovan church that I'm going to be talking about.
Oh,
Or I guess I should say the Orthodox Church in Moldova has denounced the potential COVID vaccine as an anti-Christian plot. Now, yeah. They're getting this out there quick and early.
Good Lord.
They want
you got
there
to
to
stay
be
ahead of these things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely do, They say that it's a satanic plan to microchip people.
Okay.
Or at least to introduce other foreign devices into the human body.
God damn it.
And this is so just like straight down the standard conspiracy theory line. It's unbelievable. Let's see. This was a press release, right, from the church. Right?
Jesus Christ.
Says the global anti-Christian system wants to introduce microchips into people's bodies, with whose help they can control them through 5G technology. Right? They claim that Bill Gates.
Yes, of course.
Everybody knows Bill Gates.
He's our new Antichrist. Once Obama left office and disappointingly wasn't the Antichrist,
They had to find one quick.
they've been looking. They've been trying different people on for size, but Gates is the new guy.
So he's apparently the one behind creating this microchipping technology. And they plan on introducing it into the population through a COVID vaccine. The statement says, quote, vaccination introduces nanoparticles into the body that react to the waves transmitted by 5G technology and allow the system to control humans remotely.
Wow.
What in the fuck? What? This is
It's
like
amazing.
pure insanity.
Listen, there was an article that came out. I actually talked about this on How to Heretic. There was an article that came out that said that 40% of United States Republicans believe that's true.
That
Not necessarily the whole thing. There's not necessarily the 5G or the whatever, but like the Bill Gates is going to try and microchip us. 40% of Republicans in the U.S. believe that's true.
God. This is just all somebody like Alex Jones has to do is just like think it up, say it, and then everybody believes it. Whether this came directly from him or not, but like his type,
no, he did.
Right?
He started. He actually
I'm
launched
sure he's
a lot of
behind
this stuff.
it. Did he?
Yeah.
Okay. But never mind any of that. Like this is, I don't understand these conservative Christian types who are seemingly like what do they have against medical intervention and protecting themselves against something that maybe wouldn't hurt them specifically very much, but that on a grand scale is going to hurt a lot of people?
I'll tell you
like,
what.
why not be part of the solution instead
Right?
of like, and like and seriously, it's anything that comes down the pike with COVID-19, they're dead set against any of it helping them, whether it's masks or social distancing. Like, Christianity is just better than that. And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
Because they're covered in Christ's blood, which is so much better, and they're safe. It's all just a hoax anyway. Yeah, unfortunately, there's far too much on the internet and far too few people who are able to actually think their way to healthy thinking about anything these days.
I'm so mad. And 5G.
What's hilarious
Why 5G?
to me?
What did T-Mobile do? How did they screw this up?
Well, I mean, I think that was another like QAnon. Somebody just said, "Hey, watch out for 5G. They're putting crazy like."
Why? Because
whatever.
all those new towers are being installed. Like, what was it?
Yeah, it was, and then somebody just said it, and all they have to do is say it, and then everybody loses their goddamn minds. They're being trained to not believe any official story that comes out. So,
but why do they believe that? What I don't understand is if you're so like unwilling to believe anything, right? That's real. Right. What is it about the most crazy, the most insane thing imaginable? Why is that the one you pick?
Yeah, have you read their book? Because I've read a lot of their book, and it's chock full. Like, if you believe in that book, then you expect crazy. Like, that's how you think the world's supposed to work, is like insane machinations and evil coming from every corner of the earth.
And so you see a 5G tower being put in, and you're just like, oh my God.
That's going to kill us.
They're
That's
coming
definitely going to kill us. That's Satan right there. I'm pretty sure.
They are
I think they're loading it up
looking, though. I mean, you've seen them being installed around town, right?
Yeah.
They're like fucking everywhere.
Yeah. It's good. It's they're putting demons directly into the airwaves. It's great. Well, I'm going to take us. I'm going to talk a little bit about the people want to get back to their regular lives. With this whole COVID-19 thing, they're ready to get back. And I've been around town here and seen plenty of people doing just that. They are not... there's no pandemic anymore as far as at least half our country is concerned.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I was right there with them, to be honest.
Well,
I'm so fucking tired of this thing. I mean, I get the impulse, right? Like,
I get it too.
It's just want to sit at a restaurant and have people bring me things.
Right? I miss it. I want to go to movies, but having the desire for it to be a certain way doesn't affect how the world actually is. And unfortunately, the desire is winning over the actuality in a lot of ways, and one of those ways is church. And here's the thing. Church is probably one of the worst things you could do if you want to avoid getting a pandemic virus. Because it is people gathering in crowds. It is people singing and breathing incredibly heavily directly at each other. And
apparently singing is like one of the worst things, right? Because you're projecting so much and you're like... And it's this
your
constant
mouth's wide open the whole time,
spewing forth of virus, right?
Yeah, taking deep breaths in and then pushing lots of air out. So, church couldn't be a worse idea. But maybe everybody's really, really, really interested in church opening up again.
Maybe one of the requirements for church reopening, Dan, is that we should require humming instead.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Right? Like,
issue everybody a kazoo and then just put a filter on the end of it. Anyway, so here's how this is playing out. Last week, Donald Trump made the announcement that he was now changing the a worship service to an essential thing, which, there was this category of essential businesses or whatever, which were things like grocery stores and, just sort of things that people could really not get by without. And now he's put worship services on that list. Well, what does that mean? Not much, because all of the governors are kind of in charge of how their states open things up.
Right.
But he then went ahead and threatened the governors, saying, if they try to overrule me, I will overrule them or whatever, which is hilarious because he had literally no way of doing that, at least no legal means of doing that, but that was his big threat. But here's the funny thing is that for weeks, Trump refused to release, the CDC had drafted documents for how to safely reopen churches, and Trump refused to release it, thinking that it was government overreach with churches or whatever.
Oh,
so he finally has said he's going to release those. We don't. I couldn't find them yet, except in a leaked version that would be a draft that AP got their hands on.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, you've got places like California where they're looking at how to possibly reopen churches. Most of California's in a phased reopening plan. Mm-hmm. It's a 4-stage plan, and they're basically in phase 2 of that plan, or at least most of California is. And reopening churches isn't until phase 3.
Right.
So that's kind of funny. And basically, California, their framework that would permit it, they announced their framework that would permit counties to allow in-person worship services, which included, you have to have fewer than 100 worshipers there. Everybody's got to have their temperature taken to come in. Limited singing and group recitations, meaning we don't all say the Lord's Prayer at the same time because that's stupid. And not sharing prayer books or hymnals or whatever.
I don't think these people making these rules understand what church is all about.
Right?
I am going to say that, and I'm actually kind of saying it seriously, right? Like not in defense of church, but in defense of you think these Christians are going to be happy with that? Right?
Well, it's like a test of the Christian honesty, because if they're legit, then they should follow these guidelines to the letter.
But they all think that Rome is coming after them right now, right?
It's true,
and that's where this is. I would almost just say, open.
Oh God,
just do it. Let them. Because and I know it's awful, but it's what they want. It gets rid of any kind of persecution thing that they feel like they're going through right now, and they get to see the consequences of it.
Yeah, except the consequences of it also involve the rest of us.
I know.
That's the problem.
That is the problem. But
anyway, they're trying.
I wish you could just put a little dome over that church, or I don't know,
right? You can go to church, you just can't leave.
Yeah, why not? Move in.
Go ahead, go in. We'll you can
pews,
have
those
groceries
are
delivered.
Cots, you can just sleep there.
Yeah,
and
live at church.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, okay. So here's an interesting side note to this whole affair, which is that there is, and we've reported on this, a Congressional Free Thought Caucus. I think it's maybe 4 members of Congress, but they did issue a lengthy statement that was talking about how they basically accused the Trump administration of shredding the U.S. Constitution in order to get the churches reopened, which I think is an interesting tack to take.
Yeah,
they say basically Trump is just buying into this whole thing. Well, Trump doesn't care. He just knows that he can't lose any more voters. So he just wants to please.
Which is why he should be protecting them, right? Because the way he's going, they're a large number of the voters, I mean, not a massive number, but a large number are going to get sick and potentially die.
Right. Or at very least, you have one member of a congregation die and the rest of them go, maybe Trump was not so smart as we thought he was after all.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's the one part
anyway,
of it they're pretty convinced he's their little savior.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
But those ones he's got in it, the people that are that convinced, he doesn't have to do anything to keep them around.
That's fair.
He's being really dumb here, hopefully. Anyway, yeah.
I mean, most assuredly he's being dumb.
Yeah.
He might just be really lucky.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
All right.
What happens. But yeah, it was interesting that he got called out by a small group of Congress people. I can't believe how silent it feels like Congress has been about all of this, but there you go.
Oh, yeah. Well, Dan.
Yeah.
One reason that he probably wants to get churches back open has to do with the fact that when churches are closed, there's no collection plate going around.
Well, that's true.
Right? And so there's the churches, especially your smaller little churches, are seeing just massive fall-offs in giving right now, in large part because the plate's not going around, but also because a lot of their members, right, the
congregants,
their congregants are laid off. Right?
Yeah,
we have this ridiculous unemployment rate overnight, essentially.
Right.
And so if they have any waiters, bartenders, hairdressers, anything service industry, right? Essentially anything service industry, they don't have money to be giving, right?
Right.
And this article that I read about this actually had a very interesting statistic that I was unaware of, which is, so they were talking specifically in this article about this one 65-member evangelical church in Jackson, Mississippi.
Aww.
And then it says that about half of U.S. congregations are the size of this congregation or smaller.
What? That's adorable.
Right?
65 members?
Or smaller.
Or fewer? Wow.
Yeah. And so when I started thinking about it, I was like, wow, I guess that's probably true. Like when you drive through rural America, there are all those little tiny churches, right? Just the little ones, the little country
storefronts
churches
in strip malls,
and storefronts exactly, right? And it's just all of these small churches. And so when you start thinking about that and how fragile those ministers and their ability, both their income and their ability to keep that church open, how fragile that situation is, right?
Yeah.
It is projected that a lot of churches are going to close. Now, some of that may be temporarily, it's not like the believers are going to go away overnight, right? And so, but a lot of them might go find a larger congregation or a new congregation or what have you. And it's really going to change the landscape of American Christianity in a lot of ways. At least for a while, right? Like I would assume that over time the economy comes back, whatever, that a lot of these smaller people who are more prone to a small religious community might seek out new ones as other pastors open them up again or whatnot.
Right.
But at least for the time being, these places are in trouble, and I don't feel badly about that, but it's a fact, and it makes you wonder about the future for these.
Well, every time there's a big shakeup in the American religious landscape, I figure that helps us. Like every time people are given pause to think about religion rather than just sort of in autopilot mode, I figure that helps us out. So I'm all for it.
That's an interesting thought. A little chaos helps us out.
Yeah. I think we'll see another big drop in Christianity in the upcoming months. Well, I'm going to talk now about a story that I think we may have talked about this way back in 2016, which is a story about a kid who this was a young man who was a special needs kid, and his mom put him into the Big Brothers Big Sisters program so that he could have just a mentor, somebody to guide him, which is great, which is cute, until the mentor that he got, his big brother, took him and without getting any permission from the family, baptized him.
No.
Yeah. And there was a whole big thing about that. Obviously that is an awful thing to do. And apparently the kid was traumatized by the whole thing because he didn't understand what was happening, and he didn't know why he was going to be held under. He explained to them that he was afraid, and they just told him that no, this is fine, and they went ahead and this was an immersion baptism, so they just splooshed him under the water against his will and without getting any consent from parents or anything like that.
Oh my God.
Well, they filed criminal charges, or they filed a report hoping for criminal charges, which apparently, because there was no physical harm to the child, the criminal charges were dropped, which I think is insane because trauma is trauma,
right?
And it doesn't need to be physical. But I don't know how the law works. I'm not a lawyer. Anyway, then they filed a federal lawsuit on behalf of the mother and her husband. And they went after the local chapter of Big Brothers Big Sisters and the guy who was assigned to the kid and the pastor who performed the thing, and there was a court-appointed guardian ad litem. I don't know what that means. Who apparently was showing up and proselytizing to the family and stuff. So, like, all of these people were named in this big federal lawsuit.
Jesus Christ!
And that also died. They basically the judge basically said that there was nothing there, which I think is crazy. The judge said that the guardian wasn't a government actor, so the charge against her couldn't go forward, and neither were the big brother and blah blah blah. He was a volunteer. Anyway, that got tossed out. So in April of 2018, American Atheists, who was helping this family, sued again in state court, arguing that the people were in violation of at least Ohio law, if not federal law.
Oh, okay.
And that was back in 2018, 2 years ago. Finally, now after all of this time, there has been a settlement. Now we don't know what the terms are of that settlement, but apparently, according to American Atheists, the family is pleased with the outcome. So,
yeah, all right,
there you go. All of that for something that is so clearly unethical, so diabolically gross.
Yeah.
And they had to go through all of that and be turned down by so many, there's just no help from any corner until finally 4 years later, they have some sort of solution.
Assault by religion.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Like the balls on these guys to think that they can just do that. Lord knows our former religion used to love to do that. There was a whole program for the missionaries to go out and like just baptize the kids just to get the numbers going.
I know.
Crazy.
Fortunately, my mission was not one of those.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked where I was at.
No,
either.
I think they did that mostly in developing countries.
Yeah. All right, Dan.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this story. I should have done a better sort of like story sandwich, because this one's a no good one, but it is a COVID story, so there is that.
Okay.
Let's see. There was a priest, a Hindu priest, as far as I can tell,
Who walks into a bar?
who walks into a bar. 70-year-old priest who apparently had a vision.
Okay.
A goddess that appeared to him, and
Like they do.
and said that the thing that needed to be done in order to get rid of this whole COVID nonsense is that he needed to behead somebody.
Oh, God.
And so there was a 55-year-old man who was on the premises of the temple where this priest, worked.
Yeah.
And he was praying.
Oh,
and
God.
The priest comes in with a scythe and starts hacking at his neck.
Jesus Christ.
Beheads him.
Oh, my God.
And is subsequently, arrested.
Yeah.
And, COVID's still around.
Damn it. You mean it didn't work?
Didn't work.
After all of that, he obeys the crazy vision in his head.
Surprise.
And it's still...
Surprise. It didn't work.
Okay, first of all, I'm impressed that there was a scythe lying around. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Can you fucking believe
that?
this?
Is horrific.
And so he's just like, and he's still just like, yeah, no, the goddess told me to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but wasn't there like a quid pro quo here? Wasn't there like she said that if you did it, this would happen. And
Right.
the other thing didn't, you did your part. She's a piece
Yeah.
of shit.
Did the goddess say anything about you having temporal lobe epilepsy? Because maybe it wasn't the goddess that said that.
You'll notice
Or
that
schizophrenia.
that
Could be
I,
who knows?
very much so avoided any names.
Oh, God,
this,
that's just insane. Was it that guy that was supposed to be beheaded, or just a person?
I think it was fairly haphazard. I think it was like, you got to go get me somebody, and he's like, okay. I mean,
there's a lot of precedent in Hindu lore for the removal of heads, but usually you pop an animal head back on there and you're fine. Get an elephant, just pop his head on. You got yourself a Ganesh.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it all works. But clearly there's some problem in his head. I mean, was this the first time? Is this just the first time he got caught? Like, what
Right.
other horrible things have gods told him to do? Right? Like, maybe not beheadings, but like,
Wow.
go get me a finger,
Right. Yeah. Or kill a cat. I'm sure
Kill
it
a
worked
cat.
out.
Yeah, kill a cat for sure.
Yeah. Well, oh my God, that's horrific. That is a terrible, terrible thing that happened. And it didn't work. That's the real
That's
capper.
the
I'm going to tell you
takeaway.
about a terrible thing. It's less terrible. It's an inconvenience. There was an inconvenience in Wisconsin a little bit ago, which is interesting. What happened was, now apparently in Wisconsin, the law says that if you don't have an officiant for your wedding, you can just mutually declare that you take each other as husband and wife, or whatever the same-sex equivalent, wife and wife or husband and husband.
Yeah.
And that mutual declaration is enough, and bada bing, bada boom, you're married.
Okay.
So a couple of atheists who obviously didn't want any priests involved in their wedding went to get married, and they signed their document and said, "Hey, we're just declaring that we're getting married," and the clerk apparently denied it.
How so?
And apparently did so with basically by saying, because you're atheist, you can't. You can't do it. You have to have somebody religious involved.
Well, how did they know that they were atheists?
They must have declared it in some way or other. So they were refused. Yeah, they were. So somehow, the county officials just said that they had to have an officiant in order to proceed, because they needed to be religious.
Jesus Christ.
If they had been religious, apparently. Everything would have been fine. They would have just been allowed to just declare it themselves. But here's the thing. When an atheist declares something, can you even believe them? You can't even believe them.
You can't believe it.
How do you even know they're telling the truth? You can't. So anyway,
you
that's
need
a fun little thing.
Some religion or some has to be involved, Dan.
Otherwise, what is it? Just some legal
two people,
arrangement?
Yeah, who want to dedicate their lives to each other and live together and share
any sense.
that share their lives. That doesn't. Yeah, bullshit.
That's stupid.
What about God?
Stupid.
Isn't there a third member of this relationship?
Right. Isn't there someone you guys are forgetting? Let's get Jesus in the bed with you. Come on. So yeah, they're suing, but that's just some crazy kooky banana stuff that's going on out there in the world. And listen, all you listeners, if you would like to talk to us or write into us about any of this, please give us some feedback. Write to us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, we haven't heard a lot of voicemails lately, but do call in. We love to hear your voice. Also, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist, and click the like button.
And while you're there, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. It is a closed group, but we will let you in. Also, follow us on Twitter.
Oh, yeah, do that. Stay tuned.
Hey, Dan.
Hey.
Have you ever heard of Hank Kunneman?
Cunning man? He's definitely not a cunning man.
Yeah, okay. He's like a pastor guy, right? He's a preacher.
And he has a sermon for us.
Oh, boy.
He's one of those guys. He's going to yell at us a lot.
Oh, boy.
But he is certain that... Trump has to win again. Otherwise, the whole world is going to collapse on us. So he's providing a way forward on that front.
Sometimes we hear prophecies today. Here's a big one. Will President Trump get reelected in 2020? Well, let me ask you a question. Are you willing to do two things? Are you willing to vote? We are subject to a democracy. It doesn't matter what the prophets prophesy fully. You have to vote. Second, it depends. Are you going to leave God alone? And let the Antichrist, the party of the non-religious who murder babies and think it's okay, and they don't care if churches open up. In fact, they've tried every angle they could to use a virus to do it. Because they don't have a revelation of spending time with God. Because those who spend time with God have a different perspective. And they can see contrary agendas that want to push God out of our society, push God out of our schools, push God out of the mindsets and the theologies of our schools and our universities. You know why I believe that President Trump will be elected? Because I believe there's enough smart people that aren't getting caught up in the foolish rhetoric that the enemy has tried to bite on, get you to bite on. I believe we have a friend of Jesus Christ and His church. We prophesied February 9th as they wrote about it falsely. And God said, because of this administration, and I say it again, you will find my mercy. You cannot tell me when a president stands up and says, we need more prayer in our churches. Prayer is a good thing. When a president a month ago calls the nation to pray to the Almighty God, not to a defeated entity, but to the very God that this nation was dedicated to, Jesus Christ, Yeshua. You invoke the blessing of God. You invoke the mercy of God. When a president on Friday says, it's time for the churches to open. Again, we're not reckless people. We're not uncompliant. We are not foolish people, presumptuous people. We are people of faith. We have invoked and brought forth now the mercy of God upon us. I'm not saying that there won't be any other cases or deaths. I'm simply saying something is about to shift to where we are going to see God's hand and God's power in a way that we have not seen before, that is going to outweigh what we have had to see over the last few months of this brand new decade.
Well,
Woo! That is some fire and brimstone, baby.
yeah, I mean, he is seriously, like a sound mixer's nightmare. Like, he goes soft and he's like, oh, just yelling. Like, I thought I saw like the stage kind of shake when he was like,
oh, see.
Just,
That's what's going to make him, that's what's making him popular.
yeah.
He likes to take it real big, and then he likes to bring it down small.
Yeah. And
And then he likes
what was the thing at the beginning where he's talking about, prophecy or prophets? what's his line?
And then he's like, and if you don't vote, then the prophecies don't matter.
Yeah.
Fully. Not all the way.
No,
not quite.
Yeah. And it's like, wait a second. Did he just admit that prophecy is just wishful thinking?
Yeah. Yeah. He
That,
100%
legitimately,
did.
they don't. I always thought they thought that prophecy was supposed to happen.
Yeah. I don't
Otherwise,
think he meant to say
that. What's the point if it's not meant to happen?
Right. If it's not, if literally you can vote it away.
Yeah.
It's not a prophecy.
Yeah.
That's just you wanting something.
Yeah, so like the church invites this this wishful thinker to come over.
Yeah. Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
wishful thinker, come and say what you really want, right? I want Donald Trump to serve for 4 more administrations.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
Well, then
People are
thank you,
dumb.
wishful thinker.
Thanks, wishful thinker. We appreciate you. We value you, wishful thinker.
Let's all take a moment and wish right along with him.
Right. Yeah, but there are some people who are really, really good at wishful thinking, so they're the experts. I almost suggested a clip by Mark Taylor, the professional firefighter wishful thinker, who was like quadrupling down on his prophecy from like way back in 2015 or whatever, that Obama was going to be stripped of his presidency.
Oh God!
That was what he meant, was he was going to be impeached. But then that didn't happen. But he's still doubling down because he's sure that Obama is going to be tried for treason or whatever. Obamagate. It's Obamagate.
That's some powerful wishful thinking. Oh.
Really, really good. We had some folks write into us. I wanted to get to some emails. We had Mike write into us who said, "Hi, Frank and Dan. Love the podcast. I was listening to your recent episode where you were talking about your diminishing faith in humanity." Oh, remember that? Yeah, that was a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm in Frank's camp on this.
Oh.
I don't know if even a cataclysmic event like the Holocaust happening now would shock America out of this polarized trend toward authoritarianism, rising racism, basically all the Trump era bullshit we are seeing. I don't know if it's possible to fix things without major changes to our current media culture. I honestly think if there had been the internet and social media during Hitler's reign, I don't know if they would have ever gotten past it as a society. He goes on, my perspective on our current situation as an American is that Americans in general are selfish assholes.
Yeah.
There has been so little need for us to make any real personal sacrifice for the greater good for so long that we have all but lost our sense of community. Sorry for the gloom and doom, just my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are a very privileged country, and we can learn from.
I mean, yeah, maybe like in economic terms,
right?
For
and especially for the wealthy.
a lot of us, right? Not all of us,
right?
There's
Yeah,
such great
obviously,
disparity in this country,
There is,
but
I mean, even in what is turning into the second Great Depression of our, of the United States of America, I'm doing fine. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not doing great. I'm a little worried about my finances right now.
At the moment, you're surviving, and
I'm doing fine.
You're eating.
I'm eating.
You're sheltered. You're not too worried about it at the moment.
I've got a pretty nice life. So I would say that, like, it's a pretty privileged position to be in, and I think that makes complacency, and I think selfish assholes is a pretty decent way of phrasing what America is made of.
I don't
know. Who knows? Maybe we'll be beaten into some sort of understanding about, collective good and stuff. Maybe not. We'll see. Anyway, Tim wrote into us. Tim said, I've had similar thoughts about how long away from church it would take to break the habit for many casual churchgoers. This was a reference to our last week's conversation, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I wonder is, how do they see God's part in all this? I routinely see memes posted to my Facebook feed that state something along the lines of, never doubt, God's in change. I guess that this is supposed to be comforting. My question is, how would any of this be any different if there was an all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful God pulling the strings? The virus would still play out its life cycle. Humans would still die. What could they point to that God is doing? I think that's a great question. Like, okay, let's assume that you're right, and God is working his miracles. He's just magic, and he's making it all happen. How does that help us right now? What possible thing could I look to feel good about God right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. He loves us.
Yeah, it's true. He does.
He's setting us up for, those end-time struggles, Dan. And then we get to reap all the rewards.
I'm pretty sure that, as they have done for centuries, the believers believe these are the end-time struggles.
Ugh.
We're not being set up for them. We're in the midst of them. They are around us.
Boy, this end times. It's really long.
It's
been going on for like 2,000 years.
It has been. It's been going on ever since Jesus said, this generation will not pass away before this happens.
Yeah.
And it's just been a really long end times.
Personally, after 2,000 years, I'm a little tired of it.
Yeah. I'm giving up on it entirely. I think it's the beginning times. I'm restarting the clock.
There you go.
Well, do we have anybody to thank?
We do, Dan. We have 2 new patrons on Patreon. These kind folk went over to our website, thankgodimatheist.com, and clicked on the support tab. And there's some options there. And then one of them is to go over to Patreon. and where we've been running a little campaign for a while now, and we have quite a lot of supporters on it, and it's amazing to have everybody's support. And anyway, so these 2 new supporters are both signed up at the elder level.
We've got 2 new elders?
2 new elders. Now, Dan...
We could send them on a mission together.
You could. But elder is more than just the missionaries. Everybody out there, you might know sort of the Mormon missionaries as elders. If you've ever met one, they have this title, elder, right? And it's ludicrous because they're 19 years old.
Right. It's very galling.
But it's actually an office in the priesthood, in the Holy Melchizedek priesthood, in fact. And it's an office that's it holds a lot of what would you call it? Authority, right?
Sway.
Sway. I mean, an adult man in the church should be an elder, right? If everything's been going okay, right in his life, he's an elder, right? Which means he can, do any number of ward callings. He's
magic tricks. He can do magic tricks.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't have enough authority though to lead a congregation or do stuff like that. But, But he's got enough to go home and make sure his kids get little blessings and whatnot. Anyway, so we have 2 new elders.
Yeah, there you go.
2 new elders have entered the world. We have Brenna and we have Joshua. So thank you guys.
Wow, amazing.
And congratulations on your priesthood. And then, as always, we have our top donor, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
All right. Well, you guys are amazing. You're the wind beneath our wings. We really appreciate you so much. And as Frank said, if any of you guys out there want to join them and help support our little cause, you can go to thankgodimatheist.com and click on the support tab, and it'll help you out. And we sure appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. So, Dan.
Yeah.
There's a new atheist in the world, Dan.
Yes, there is. Well, every time a human being is born, there's a new atheist in the world. but then they get that sort of knocked out of them. But we got one of them back.
Yeah. There's a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about John Steingard, who's a famous guy. Apparently, I don't know him, but the lead singer of the Christian rock band Hawk Nelson.
That's not a good name.
No, that's a terrible
band name
for a
Hawk
band.
Nelson?
Hawk Nelson.
They did that
Hawk
thing where
like
you just
the
put
bird.
2 names into the hat and pull them out, or 2 words
Right,
in, right?
yeah,
And
it
you're
was
just okay, we are
random
now
band name generator sort of
Hawk. Oh, please don't let it be Banjo.
Hawk Banjo is a better name. Anyway, so he recently, in a lengthy Instagram post, said that he is no longer a believer in God. So boom.
Oh wow. Okay.
We got ourselves. I mean, he calls himself an agnostic, as we all did when we were first taking when we were dipping our toe into the water of non-belief.
Not me. Full on
I-
atheist. I was like, nah.
You're like,
Fuck
fuck
that fence sitting.
Yeah.
Day one.
I think I don't know what wording I used other than just I stopped being a Mormon and I knew I wasn't Mormon, and then for a while there I was like, I don't know, maybe there's a God. It doesn't seem like there is.
Really?
And then eventually it was just like, okay, well, I guess I just don't have a belief in a God, so I'm atheist. That'll be fine. Anyway, here's what this made me think about. Because when a high profile anything, last week, did we talk about it on this or just on the patrons only business? But there was the woman who who was the Roe in Roe v. Wade, who had a deathbed confession that she had been paid
that was on
to
the show.
switch sides. Yeah. So here's the thing. When someone switches sides, they become pretty even higher profile than they might have been beforehand. They are suddenly important. And here's the thing about somebody like this Josh, what's his name? Oh, I said it before. John Steingart. John Steingart. The thing about somebody like that is he could parlay this if he wanted to. It doesn't seem like he wants to, but he could parlay this into a meaningful career as a new atheist, as a high profile atheist, which I don't begrudge him. You know what I mean? Like, that's an interesting move to make. But he's, but I always get a little wary of people who are, brand new to a movement or to a group, who then suddenly are, have the opportunity, if they choose to go with it, of being a mouthpiece for that group, of suddenly representing that group.
Yeah.
And it makes me a little nervous. I'll be honest with you. Whenever something like this happens, there's this rush to sort of get them out in front of the world and get them talking about it. Just because, believe me, I'm all for the visibility that this gives atheism. You know what I mean? I love it.
Well, the thing that I was reading about this whole thing was the sort of the dialogue that he's trying to create on his Instagram feed, if I remember correctly, where he's kind of like trying to like have a discussion with his followers who are ostensibly fans of him and his music, right?
Right.
And I mean, that's an interesting thing. And, like, you obviously aren't in his position, right?
Right.
And then decide to come out as an atheist, right? Without there, and I mean, there's always a process that gets somebody there, but like my guess is he didn't believe for quite a while, right?
Yeah,
right. So he
had been going through some self-torture for a minute.
Yeah, and so he's had a lot of time to kind of figure it out. And here's the deal: as long as he doesn't, or anybody sort of in that kind of position, as long as they don't stand up and say, and be sort of tone deaf enough to say that I'm speaking for this community now, right?
Right.
As long as as they're willing just to say, hey, this was my experience, I think there's incredible value there, right?
I do too.
But again, as long as they sort of do it with the proper perspective and, dare I say,
and this
humility,
guy seems to be doing
right?
it. He seems to be doing great. Like he's being. He's just talking about his experience, and I can't imagine how terrifying it must be for him, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah,
his entire career, he's got this group of people that has supported him and has looked to him, and he, at least in their eyes, he knows he's going to be betraying them. So I feel like I feel for the guy. Like, this is a terrifying thing to have to go through. I've heard of so many stories of people who, priests or pastors who realized that they didn't believe anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's like your whole career is gone. And you've got,
pastors are just screwed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this kid, I haven't listened to his music, so who knows, right? But like,
I'm sure it's very good.
I'm sure
most Christian music's
really,
amazing.
really, really good. But one can guess that there's at least a little bit of skill and talent there, right?
Sure. Sure.
I mean, I don't know. That's probably a hard thing to pivot away from. But if he's any good, he's got a career, as some kind of musician waiting for him.
Hopefully,
even if it's just, studio musician or
should we write him some atheist songs?
Oh God.
I feel like we should just do him that favor just so that he can continue his career.
There was one a couple years ago, wasn't there somebody doing like atheist music, and it was like,
Yeah.
and I don't want to make fun of anybody out there who's doing their thing, right?
Right.
But like, I remember, I can't remember in what context you and I, like, it came to our attention but we were talking about it in the context of the show. I don't think we talked about it on the show though. And I know I listened to one track and I was just like, nope. Nope, I don't need atheist music. Nope.
Yeah. It's tricky. I mean, here's the
atheist
thing.
music is any music that's not talking about God, right?
Right.
So-
Yeah. And the thing is, what we don't want, you don't need music that's like about not believing in a thing. That's not how music or poetry. I mean, it could be about like
sleeve.
it could be about finally feeling free.
Oh yeah,
Like that is a thing, and finally, and about like a journey that's difficult. That's something that could be
free to not believe.
You have a future in this business, Frank. I feel like you're just on the spot coming up with hit after hit.
I'm free to be
not
me.
believe. I love it. Wow, you've got all the rhymes.
For me.
I just think it's always so interesting when someone high profile like that comes out, and we've seen it a few times as we've done this podcast of ours. Great. I really actually hope that he turns out to be an awesome ally, and I wish him the best.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and
maybe he'll start a podcast and instantly have way more followers than us.
little bastard.
You better have us
Screw
on.
him. Nah, fuck this guy. How dare he?
Oh man. Well,
No, like, I don't know. Like, we don't need to, talk too much more about it. But he, the one final thought that I had was just sort of the one thing that I can also kind of just, from sort of your initial concerns about this and somebody standing up to be, potentially a dangerous sort of spokesperson or whatnot. I mean, the great thing about the atheist movement is that it's broadly a movement, right? Like it's more a trend than it is a movement, right? Like,
yeah.
Like there's no cohesion. There's anybody who's tried to create. we are just the biggest herd of cats as far as like, because we're free thinkers and we have our own perspective, and we did something hard and kind of unimaginable, which is rejecting for a lot of us, at least those of us who didn't grow up as atheists, rejecting the worldview that we were presented with, growing up. And so like, I think that, I mean, it would be a very short-lived attempt for somebody to stand up and be like, I'm the leader of these people, right?
Right.
It's like, come
That's
on.
True. That's true. If anybody, it doesn't matter how high profile, if Neil deGrasse Tyson said, I can speak for all the atheists, most of the atheists would be like, that's some bullshit right there, man.
No kidding, right? Like, we're a community of contrarians and
right. Yeah. By our nature, we are free thinkers, and we reject anyone speaking for us. That's kind of our gig. It's kind of how our
if we
thing
could
is.
somehow coalesce around that, it would be a really cool thing. But we're not likely to do that, considering that's our nature. So.
All right. Well, hey, best of luck to John Steingart. I hope things go well for
good luck.
him. And sorry, Hawk Nelson, but I'm afraid I won't be buying any of your albums anytime
Just the
soon.
name, guys.
Just the name, Hawk Nelson. Come
Go
on.
screw yourselves.
Do better. All right. Well, hey, if you guys have anything you'd like to say, if you'd like to tell us ways that we should actually appreciate atheist music, please feel free to write into us. podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Indeed. Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist, and click the like button.
And while you're there, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. It is a closed group, but we will let you in. That's the closed nature of it. It's what makes it great. Also find us on Twitter at TGIAtheist.
Yeah, and speaking of Facebook, thanks to Danny and Amy for being moderators on the Members Only Lounge.
And a big thanks goes out to the Red Rock Hot Club and to Gordon Johnston for the use of their music.
And thanks to all of you, dear friends, for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.